Okay, so now let's get to the second requirement. So like what I mentioned to you, because of the word spike, it suggests something about magnitude. And if it suggests something about magnitude, it means you need to bring in either PED or PES or any other elasticity concept. That one requires, to know what elasticity concept you need to bring in, it actually requires some discretion or judgment. And you build judgment by doing a lot of questions. Okay? Okay, so why is there a spike in the price of sugar? So I think the first thing I put here is you want to look out for keywords which require certain concepts. So I think the first thing to realize is that if you don't write elasticity concepts, you won't get any marks for R2. Right? So you really want to be on the lookout for keywords which require certain concepts. I say, so in this case, the word is spike, right? But it can be even trivial things like, for example, plural forms of policies, for example, or they ask you 2 reasons, then these will tell you, okay, you better don't run, there are 2 reasons, right? So in this case, the word is actually spike, which suggests I need to talk about magnitude. Okay, so what's the story thus far, right? If you remember, is that we have an increase in demand and a decrease in supply. Okay, remember I told you that it requires a certain discretion to know what elasticity concepts to use, right? So actually here, the correct concepts are actually PD and PES, right? So here, how do I know? The reason why I know is because if demand is increasing, the factor that affects how much price increases is PES. Okay, what did I just say? When demand shifts, okay, like this, it is the slope of the other curve that affects how much price increase. Not the slope of the green line, but the slope of the blue, the solid and the dashed blue lines. Right? Again, when demand changes, or even supply, for example, it's always a slope of the opposing curve that affects how much price changes. So for demand, it's always it will be PES, because PES is the slope of the opposing curve, right? And for supply, it's PED, because it's the slope of the opposing curve. So that's the first thing. You got to identify this, right? After you do that, you got to say, okay, if I want prices to spike, what do I need the elasticities to be? And the correct answer is that you need the elasticities to be less than 1. Because if they are less than 1, they are steep. Right? If they are less than 1, they are steep. If they are steep, then the price increase will be a lot more significant. Like so. Okay, so I'm gonna start by saying that the PED for sugar is gonna be steep because there are not many close substitutes. Okay, I always tell people to use this, but you can use anything else, right? You can use habitual consumption or addictions, or you can use proportion of income. You can use time, and you can use substitutability. And I think I mentioned a lot of times that I actually prefer this. It's very easy to use. So if you wanna substitute for sugar, there really isn't many. So things like stevia, they work as a substitute, but they just don't taste the same. Right? So you say, yeah, there are actually not very close substitutes for sugar. So for a given rise in price, quantity demanded will fall less than proportionally. Right? So if you look at this is P on the y-axis and Q on the x-axis. If you increase prices by a lot, quantity demanded only falls very little, aka steep. Okay, the next thing I want to say is that just like in the demand supply factor, you got to use technical terms, which means you got to memorize these factors. So close substitutes. So you memorize the close substitutes. So what you do is you just close, okay, H, habitual consumption, I, proportion of income, T, time, S, substitutes. Then you say, okay, which one did I use? I use substitutability. How did I explain it? I said that sugar, there's no substitutes. Even if there are substitutes like stevia, it's not a close substitute because they taste different. Hence, if you add stevia, consumers can find the difference, or they can notice the difference, and so they don't consume the product. Then you check. Okay, roughly about there. You say, but then actually, there's another technical term that I missed out, which is the fourth bullet. I missed out technical term less than proportionally. Okay, so let's do it again. HITS. I use S. Stevia poor substitute. Taste different. Therefore, if you increase price, quantity demanded will decrease less than proportionally because firms don't have any other substitute to turn to when it comes to sugar. Check. Okay, I use the term less than proportionally and it sounds okay. Then you go. Okay. Okay, then we're going to do the same for supply basically. So supply is also likely to be price inelastic. Okay. The reason why is because in the short run, it's very difficult for producers to increase quantity supply of sugar because of this thing called long gestation period. So sugar comes from sugar cane, right? So where is it? Did they say here? Sugar cane, right? Sugar cane obviously is a crop, right? So if tomorrow I want to increase a crop, it's not possible because it takes time to grow, right? So even if you increase prices by a lot, right? So again, this is P. Increase prices by a lot. Quantity supply only can shift by a little bit. So then you can see the PES is less than 1. Yeah. Okay. So this is the case where supply is price inelastic. And then finally, we're going to end off by saying, okay, so if both demand and supply are very, very price inelastic, what you will see is that so here I've actually drawn it very, very steep now, right? So what you can see is that the prices need to rise by a lot. They run out of colors. The prices need to rise by a lot, right? In order for this quantity demanded and quantity supplied to meet. If they were very, very gentle, right? Maybe you rise by a little bit, then they will meet really, you know. But it's not the case. You need to rise by a lot because consumers find it very hard to cut back on consumption. Producers find it very hard to ramp up on production. So you need to motivate them a lot by increasing prices. And that's our last point. Okay. In the WA one, I said that a lot of people don't write this. So what you want to do is you can also memorize it. Yeah. Okay, so then you start out by saying, since demand and supply are price inelastic, it takes a huge increase in price in order for quantity supplied to decrease and quantity supplied to increase and quantity demanded to decrease in order for the new equilibrium to be reached. Did I miss out anything? Or you can say, oh, I didn't say this. Not very responsive. An increase in price, a huge increase in price is needed in order for quantity demanded to decrease and quantity supplied to increase because both are not very responsive to an increase in price. Okay, then we consider that you have learned this concept. Okay. So I just want to revisit the 3 big points. The first one is you got to use technical terms, right? For the DDSS factors, as well as for the PED and PES. So some DDSS factors would be like purchasing power, normal good. For supply would be COP, factor of production, derived demand. Right. And for PDPS, we're talking about HITS factors. For PES, we're talking about long gestation period. And then the more than proportionally, less than proportionally as a technical term. Okay. And make sure you always include a price adjustment process. So again, you can sort of off the screen and then try to recall what the adjustment process is. Okay, you can do a few times, actually it's worth it. You'll feel at the end of the day when you study like this, it feels very productive because you learned a lot. But you will also feel like you're moving very, very slow. Like how come this guy has finished 2 books where I only finished 1 book? Because your study process is just a bit longer. Okay. And then you want to look out for keywords which require certain concepts. So in this case, it's spike. But otherwise, it can be things like plural, 2 factors, you know, or they can suggest that you need certain concepts really. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. Is that it? Yeah, this is it.